This is a little video of our trip to Colorado this past summer. We flew into Denver and then went straight to Boulder, to the University of Colorado Boulder, because we were looking for the Museum of Natural History. It took us a while to find it.
Are we lost? We found it.
But we did find it, and after walking in, we really enjoyed our time looking at all of the dinosaur bones and everything else that the museum had to offer. It wasn't a big museum, but it was cool, and a great start to our trip.
Like my present now is my past, so lost in a familiar place, while everybody's moving on, and I try to keep.
After the museum, we walked around campus a little bit because the weather was really nice. We sat under a tree for a while and talked, and then we had a little accident.
Tell the blog what happened.
I left my water bottle in there, and there's a lock on it. You can lock it so that the top doesn't open, but I did not do that. And I have paid the consequences.
Yep. It's soaked.
Yeah.
But after our trip to the museum, we drove to Boulder Falls.
Hello. We are about to go to
Hello.
Boulder Canyon Falls. Boulder Falls?
It was a bit of a hot day, so getting close to the water was really nice. There was a spray coming up that was cooling the air down around us. There were a lot of people watching the falls, and the reason why is because they were just beautiful. And it was loud and refreshing and really nice. We also saw this little guy, which we found out the next day was not a chipmunk, but was actually a ground squirrel.
My favorite part was when we stepped further down and it got like 10 degrees cooler.
It's probably my favorite part too. I also really liked the chipmunk.
I know, that was
And
my second favorite.
Yeah, and the hummingbird.
Again, not a chipmunk, ground squirrel, but still cute.
I do my best trying to make sense.
After Boulder Falls, we drove into Boulder and found our rental.
When I'm lost on the open sea, you're the wave that will carry me.
And it was pretty cute. They even had some cookies ready for us, which I'm a sucker for. Nice bathroom, nice kitchen, good place to hang out for the next few days. Later that evening, we went downtown to explore Pearl Street.
There's rivers to cross and hills to climb.
We saw musician Roger Ramsey, who was also from North Carolina, and I got to listen to him sing for a little bit.
Some days might feel cold and dark. Oh, why do you winds afraid of losing? The hardest
We also found William here with a beautiful snake that we got to hold and pet.
we've been saving for a rainy day. Let's get our bags, be on our way.
And then we wrapped up the day by going to Fuji restaurant.
Wherever we are is where I want to be. On
The food was delicious, of course.
a chance and roll the dice.
A good end to a good day.
You can be my four-leaf clover, starting over.
And the next morning, we woke up bright and early and headed off to Rocky Mountain National Park. It was a really nice day out, nice and cool, and the first thing we saw was this really pretty lake, crystal clear water, with a beautiful view of a mountain in the background. We saw lots of interesting trees, lots of interesting birds, and overall had an amazing time. This is probably one of my favorite views here. I think we stayed at this lake for maybe an hour and a half. I could have stayed all day. We even saw some more ground squirrels and found one of the volunteers at the park who actually told us that they were ground squirrels and not chipmunks. There's another lake here a little bit further up the path. But the views of the mountains only got better and better. It was also really cool seeing all the flowing water in the mountains. Got to dip my hands in it. It was really cold. And then we hit a point where we hit over 10,000 feet in elevation before making it to Emerald Lake. You can see why they call it Emerald, because the water's so green. We saw some people jumping into the water and then started heading back.
Alright boys, we did the hike with nothing crazy or anything. So we did 3 miles, about 600 feet of elevation gain, which was really cool. We went up to like 10,100 feet or something. It was a great time.
After the hike, we hopped in the car and started driving up the mountain towards the Alpine Visitor Center.
Just found the spot that we had to stop for a second because this view.
And of course, we had to stop at the view. Always stop for the views. Another one of my favorites here. And then as we were driving, we found yet another view at probably the highest point, which was just under 12,000 feet of elevation. We got out to walk around and I took about 5, maybe 6 steps, and then my vision started going black. And I was like, what's going on? Turns out I was getting acute mountain sickness. So I had to really take my time with this walk from the car to the overlook, but it was worth it. The views were amazing. Once again, I loved it up there. I could have stayed there forever, just, couldn't have moved very much. But then we went back to the car and went to the Alpine Visitor Center where I got an elk bratwurst. It was pretty tasty. But the whole time that we were there, I was feeling pretty foggy in my head. So I knew that as soon as we were done eating, we had to start heading back down. And on the way down, we saw a moose, or a moosette. That was cool. I was blown away.
Yeah, I feel like a lot has happened. We were taking the road up the road we go. Up. And we were around 12,000 feet. We stopped at that overlook that was really cool, and I got some footage there. But that's when I first started experiencing some altitude sickness. I was feeling lightheaded, especially when I walked. I'd take a few steps and I felt like I was gonna pass out or something. We made it to the Alpine Visitor Center, which is also at like 11,700 feet or something. We got some food there. I had the elk bratwurst, which is pretty good, but still felt kind of bad at that point. And so we decided that we were gonna try and lose as much altitude as we could quickly, so that we could start to feel a little better, and then also try to get some phone service so we can look at the maps and see which way we wanted to head back home. So we continued on this road that we were on, and after, I don't know, it's been probably like 30 minutes or something, we finally got service and realized it's gonna take us hours longer to get back to where we need to go if we keep going this way. So now we're turning around, we're going back up to 12,000 feet, and we're gonna see how we do. Awesome adventure!
And so we started the drive back up, and I did get a little bit foggy again, but not quite as bad, and we were only up at the height of it for a few minutes or so. And we saw some more elk at the end, which was always cool. And then on the drive back from the mountains, we saw this dam that we just thought was really cool, so we got out and took a look at it before stopping at this coffee shop in Estes Park for a nice coffee. a decaf because it was already later in the day, you know. Day 3 was the last full day of the trip, and we started off with some good coffee and great food at Scratch Labs Cafe. Then we hopped in the car and drove towards Red Rocks Park and Amphitheater. Check out the Red Rocks and the amphitheater. It was a really hot day. It was so cool looking at the stage, seeing the amphitheater with the great view in the background. Listening to the acoustics while they set up for the show that night. I think being a musician gave me a great appreciation for the type of venue it is and why so many musicians love playing there. We also took a look at their display indoors, which is really cool. And then I tried some funky zoom out shots with the camera because it was a good setting for it. But that was our time at Red Rocks. I really enjoyed being there. And then we went over to the Denver Aquarium.
All right, we made it to the Denver Aquarium, and then we promptly decided not to go in because it was expensive, and apparently it's not that good. So we're gonna go to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science instead, which will be dope.
Dinosaurs, a planetarium, should be cool.
Yeah.
And so we left the aquarium and went straight to the museum, which was actually awesome. There were so many cool space exhibits. There was a guy in a suit giving a demonstration. There was this hallway with all these beautiful lights. They even had this weird like alien spaceship hallway, which was kind of cool, kind of trippy at the same time. I liked it. Then we went up to the terrace where you could see a view of the Denver skyline, but it was a bit smoky because of the fires in Canada during that time, so that was a bummer. Now this shot in red shows projections of the sun along the edges that was set up through a telescope next to another telescope, which is showing a white shot with sunspots on it. It was a really cool demonstration up on the terrace. After that, we walked through the museum's animal galleries, which they had these really cool three-dimensional like taxidermy displays of all these animals. It was really, really cool. And there were so many of these. I'm not going to show you all of them because obviously you got to go to the museum yourself and see them. They are really cool though. You can do hand puppets. It's a great time. So what the fuck is that? Dinosaurs were really cool. Love dinosaur bones. Love ancient Egypt. Got to see a lot of cool stuff. And the last day, of course. The last day was a short one, but we had to start it off checking out this mural and eating at Foolish Craig's. You'd be foolish not to eat at Foolish Craig's, but for real though, this place was dope. The food was so good. And then we checked out the tea shops and walked around Pearl Street a little bit more, reminiscing about our time in Boulder, Colorado. And before we knew it, we were at the airport, ready to go back home. Overall, 10 out of 10 trip. I recommend Rocky Mountain National Park. The views are amazing. Hope you get to check it out sometime. And if you've been there, let me know what your favorite parts were. Until next time.